Are Elijah Craig single barrels worth the price or worth getting compared to, say, the usually much older batch products when it comes to the ABC blends? It's a very timely question because I actually have a 10-year single barrel that I've been looking to get into here from a good whiskey friend. Cheers, Mr. Jiggs. So I decided to combine both of those into this video, both answering the question that I received and tasting this for the first time and giving some first impressions. So thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. We're going to take off the plastic here. Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining me on this lovely day on the outdoors here. I am trying to get this video in as quick as I can here because I don't know how much time I got here before the kids are going to want to be playing outside. So with this Elijah Craig single barrel, I'm excited to get into this. This is the oldest single barrel that I have gotten my hands on. It is a 10-year from the Barrel Collective. It is 124.8 proof. Now, when it comes to these Elijah Craig single barrels, I've struggled with them a bit, mainly because of the price sometimes. I have seen some stores trying to charge essentially $100 for 8-year single barrels. And I'm like, yeah, but I can get the cast strength 12-year blends for $85, sometimes even at the exact same stores. So what is the selling proposition of these single barrels? And frankly, even amongst some groups that I really love that have had single barrels, I haven't been that overly impressed with the Elijah Craig single barrels. So that's what elicited today's question. I brought that up recently in a video where we talked about would I take the batch product or the single barrels? It actually does vary, label to label, brand to brand. And this is a brand where things do vary. I like the batches better than the single barrels. There have been very few single barrels that I've fallen in love with, and I don't think there's been a single barrel yet that I would take over one of the ABC batches. Even my least favorite batches, I think I would take over most of the single barrels that I've had, though I haven't put that necessarily to the test through any blind flights. But I struggle when brands do this in general. When something is, say, 8 years age stated, single barrel, and costs the same amount as a blend of even older whiskeys for the same brand, for the same price, it kind of just leads me to think, like, what's the point? And the other brand that I've struggled with on this would be Remus Repeal, specifically the 100 proof. Now, for a while, when there was no old MGP on the market, Remus Repeal made sense in the marketplace. But now, with this latest batch 7, when it was, 8 years, 9-year blend, cost $120 for 100 proof, I can consistently get killer 7, 8, 9-year MGP single barrels from brands like, Nashville Barrel Company or Backbone or Copper and Cask. I know we've been talking about these brands a lot lately. But if I can find brands like that for cheap price, then what the heck is this blend doing and why does it cost $120? The opposite can be true too in the case of Elijah Craig. It's actually the complete opposite, where the blend is the bargain at 85 and I keep finding these single barrels for 90, 95, 100. Now, as I said, this is the first 10-year I've come across. Most of the ones I had usually average around 8 years. So we'll see impressions on this one. And I don't know. Let's see how I walk away from it. Maybe this one will change my mind. Cheers, whiskey friends. And tell you what, right off the bat, that nose is pretty killer. Oh, that comes across older than 10 years even. Okay, that nose is killing me. The oak is there. It's got a creme brulee thing going on. I haven't gotten a whole lot of fruits yet. it's mostly bright leaning, despite the fact that I said it comes across older than 10 years. It's kind of got that interesting imbalance about it, where the oak and the underlying flavors don't necessarily align. The oak has so much density to it, whereas the bourbon itself comes across younger than 10 years. All right, let's go for taste. Very good. Ooh, good oak on the back end, too. That is dense. No, this is a very good single barrel. I am quite impressed with this one. This one's taken me back a little bit here. I'm going to have to do some editing on this particular video because this one stopped me in my tracks quite a few times. The layers in this one are... I'm going to have to sit down with this one a bit more to break down the layers. But we're talking about some layers of some fruits combined with some creme brulee and then that oak playing together very merrily. All right, I'm going to come back to this one. Man, I had to go in for a bit more on this one. This is frankly the best single barrel Elijah Craig I have had, which of course undermines my entire premise of this video somewhat. But it's good to find these type of things. I mean, that's what we search for, is those outliers. Thank you, Mr. Jigs, for this one, because this is changing my thought process a little bit. But going through this one, I mean, I've been sitting here breaking it down. I probably had to remove 5 minutes from the middle of this video because this one just took me aback. But it is this delicate balance of a creme brulee, all these berries, and the oak in that 10-year. This feels older than 10 years. Honestly, this probably beats the A124. So that's interesting. I'm going to go in for another sip. Gosh, it almost comes across toasted. The way it does, the way the char moves on the finish with the oak. Oh, this is a phenomenal whiskey. I'm starting to get a little bit of the nuttiness now from the Elijah Craig that I would expect, but it's taken a while in this tasting for it to show up. All right, one more sip. I feel like I'm going to keep saying one more sip because it is that darn good of a single barrel. Fitting that I crack open my favorite single barrel of Elijah Craig while talking about Elijah Craig single barrels maybe not being worth it. But that goes to show you, when it comes to single barrels, you just got to play the single barrel game. Well, to wrap this up, I suppose when it comes to these Elijah Craig single barrels, I mean, I'm now through 5 of them, and I'd probably call 2 of them hits. The other 3, I could take them or leave them. So just kind of know that if you're going in with the Elijah Craig single barrels, the only other brand, well, that's interesting. The only other brand I can think is hit and miss on their single barrels is Henry McKenna 10-year. And that would kind of fit the same lines that we're talking about here in many ways. So it's interesting that they have that characteristic in common. In general, I would lean towards the batches of Elijah Craig, but maybe things are about to change on this brand. With the blends getting younger, the A124 being a little underwhelming and age-shaded to 10 years, maybe the single barrels will take over. Well, thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. I think that wraps up my thoughts on this very perplexing tasting that I just had. Oh my gosh, this is good. Thank you, Mr. Jigs. I know I've said thank you quite a few times, but thank you again. And I'll catch you on the next Tuesday discussion. Goodbye, everybody.
Jeff, just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again. Oh, Jeffrey, you should just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again. Oh, Jeffrey, you friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say